Yeah.
So the story that we're going to wrap up with this. A story that just broke out. I'm really curious to see what Chris has to say about this. I have my opinion on it. Last Chance U. Do you remember what Last Chance U is?
Oh, yeah.
The Netflix show about
The
the
JUCO,
JUCO.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Last Chance U players from season 2 are coming out and now suing Netflix $30 million, claiming they signed a contract to not receive any benefits from the show within the time.
They were coerced into signing, is what they said, with an ultimatum. So
that is what they're claiming.
Pretty much that they were already at the JUCO. EMCC East Mississippi was already the best junior college, or is that what it's called? JUCO?
Junior, yeah.
Yeah. In the nation. Netflix approached them to make a show about them.
Yes.
And so they approached the players after, the university says they're up for it. They approached the players and they said,
this is what they're claiming.
They're claiming that they approached them and said if they did not sign the contract saying that they could follow them, throughout their season, interview their lives, their classes,
go in their dorm room,
they would be barred from practice and games. They would not be able to go. And that's if they didn't sign it. They were not allowed to consult outside legal advice before signing the contract. I don't know how legal that is. If that's in writing, that would be all the proof you need.
And this is what they're claiming. Again.
That's what they're claiming. It was, I think, 6 total people that are suing for $30 million, saying that they still have received no compensation for any of that.
They signed the contract.
They signed the contract. But there is, like I said, you need proof. And there is something called duress. When you sign a contract under duress, if you can prove that it was duress, you were being forced to do something, it can be voidable. But that's not the only thing that would need to happen, because after the contract's voided, you would then need to sue them for the value that you say you're worth during that time period and what the show ended up making. But Chris probably has more expertise on this. So do they have basis on this?
I'm going to say my opinion before we get yours.
Okay.
My opinion is I think this is another classic example of, I'm going to chase my bag. All these guys probably sat around with their buddies and were like, hey, did you ever get paid from that Netflix show? And they were like, no. And well, you should have. It's probably made millions of dollars. You should look into that.
Yeah.
They hired a lawyer. Of course, a lawyer is going to take this because to them, it's like, holy crap. Like, I could make some serious, this was a very well-known show. This was a well-known whatever. But to me, you signed the contract. You knew what you were doing. And now you're trying to go back the same way some of these other players are and going, no, because of how college football is now, I deserve what I would have had, back then if the rules were this now. And to me, it's just unfortunate that you played college football in that time frame, in that realm.
I would like to say, though, that a similar situation is going on with the NCAA and Reggie Bush right now, who is suing them. I don't know if the lawsuit's open right now, but he plans on bringing forth a lawsuit saying that they capitalized on all that stuff and they took my Heisman away for me doing the same thing. Yeah. And so it's like kind of similar conversation because it wasn't legal back then.
To me, it's just, it's just like, it sucks that the rules are the way they are now. And it sucks that some of these great players didn't reap the benefits of that. Oh yeah. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Yeah. To where I kind of use the example of, I said with the whole presidency, and if Trump, him wanting to do no tax on tips and no income tax, that would be like me going to my employer and going, hey, because this is now how it is,
all the tips I made
from the last 10 years, I want it all back. You can't just go back and all of a sudden do that. It doesn't work like that. So to me, this is the same thing.
What do you think, Chris? Do they have grounds to sue? The lawsuit's happening.
Well, I mean, I can tell you one thing. I mean, I know some folks that are in Hollywood. We have a relative of ours actually that was in a Subway commercial. She got paid a lot of money for that. But I can tell you before she got paid a lot of money for that because before we started asking questions and actually got her legal counsel and got her an agent, it went from a few $100s to tens of thousands of dollars, tens upon tens. So those things do happen, and Hollywood is a shady business.
Oh yeah.
Now, I mean, you might know, Dylan, like, does that fall under RICO? The fact that if you have a group of guys, if they can prove it, if they can prove that they were coerced, And if anywhere it says you're off this team if you don't do this,
That's what I'm saying.
that's
All
where
they
they could
need
win.
is proof.
That's
And
where
that
they could
would-
win.
That would count as
And-
duress.
And I agree with you on that.
And
I
now
agree.
the money, though, I think that's where it's going to be really tough. How are they going to decide? Like, these guys will probably get some money. Unfortunately, most of it will be taken away by the lawyers, so they won't get as much as they want. But shady deal, it shouldn't have been done in the first place. They shouldn't have tried to bribe them by saying, "Oh, you'll get more publicity and you'll have
Well,
TV
that's why
time
they
and
went to a
coaches will
JUCO.
know who you are," and all this nonsense. It reminds me, Dawson, of like when we were younger, whether it was going to football camps or going to lacrosse camps where, they were money grabs. They would bribe you by saying, "Oh, you're going to meet all these coaches and you're going to end up, being able to get a scholarship and all this nonsense."
Yeah.
And so it's going to be an ugly deal. Curious to see how this comes out.
I would say, I think what makes the most sense, if they do end up settling and they do end up getting some sort of payment, it would probably end up being some sort of like a form of royalty for moving forward, where everything the show makes from now until however, and that's just the whole show, because they were on a season of the show, they get to capitalize on the title of the show, because Last Chance U does basketball now. I'm pretty sure they still make football seasons. And so this could be a way forward where they get a percentage, and so they're continuing to make off of it.
Yeah, it's a bad look too for the producers
Oh, yeah.
and the owners of that brand.
Well, we
and
know
that
this
show,
with Netflix.
because
It's
if they
true,
get known
though.
that we use
If
our
it's true,
athletes, we don't
yeah.
pay them.
That's
That's an ugly look.
regardless on if it's true, it's a bad narrative to have surrounding
So
you
my
right
my
now.
question to you is, why aren't we seeing the other 4 seasons
Maybe
of
they
Last
do.
Chance U?
This just
of
happened
the
last
players
night.
on that come out and say, "Oh, they didn't do that for me either."
This just happened last night.
That's
This
gonna be
just went
interesting,
live.
too.
So that's another good point. What happens when this is true, and now players from season 1 and the players from the other
They had a
college that
basketball
they
one,
did
they
for
What
had
3 and
schools
4?
though? Like, I'd want to go back and look
They
at
did-
the
they
schools
did-
where
Eastern
they were
Mississippi
from.
Were the first
Community
2,
College. Yeah.
and then they did the one with
don't
in
remember their
Indiana.
name.
I
Yes.
can't remember. It was with that coach,
Notre Dame
the
colors.
John B. coach.
Yes.
The guy who smokes the cigars,
Yeah.
the really roughneck guy. And then they did one in California with
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name, but it was a green school.
Yeah.
And then they did a basketball one.
Yes.
So they've done I think 5
A lot.
seasons.
Probably over 200 athletes that they have
Yeah.
been in contact with and
Talked to, interviewed, were in their
Yep.
homes.
So
were
if this is true,
I would
could
more
potentially
people
start
would come
seeing
out.
some. Yeah.
And then you kind of know, okay, it wasn't just a quick money grab.
Because these were all
of-
people from the same team. Like, this was not them communicating with people from other teams that were also a part of it. So, yes, that could be the next step, is that this gets way bigger and this turns into a $100 million lawsuit.
Yeah.
That could be something
Yes.
crazy.
To me, though, on paper, and just it seems like a money grab to me. It
does.
seems like, hey, we should have earned some money, and regardless if we sign this or
Yeah.
not. I don't know. It
Well,
might
and
be
you could
hard to
argue
come
that
back
they
from that.
should have been given something.
Oh, that's
there
not
should
the
have been
argument.
some compensation.
I agree.
They were on
that
TV.
you should have. Yes, 100%.
The fact that
so
they
that's not
gave
what
them
I'm saying.
0
But you
made this happen.
If
They
that's
should have
what
given
it
them
was,
something.
though, if that's what it was, and that's what the deal was, you signed that.
Yeah.
You knew what you were signing.
Yeah.
If you had problems with it, the same way we talked about with the whole Subway thing, you should have taken it and gone, hey, is this right?
The part
Is
that
this-
I think they have the most grounds for is the fact that they said you're not allowed to consult other legal teams. Or I'm guessing they threatened to revoke the offer altogether if they found out that players were doing that. And obviously, if a player that has no idea about contracts suddenly shows
Yeah.
back up and he knows now, that's. So if they can get proof of that, because that's one duress,
Yeah.
that's there's other terms for that. It's all illegal. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, if they can prove that, they
That's
have a
malpractice.
case.
That's
They have a
lawyer
case.
malpractice.
Yeah, that's taking advantage. I mean, it wasn't like these guys just had some job or, hey, you're going to be a part
No.
of this cast of
No.
on a show. This was like your team. You
This was
played
your-
for this
real
school.
life.
This was real life.
Literally
It's
following
totally
their
different.
lives. They were
Yeah.
in their dorms following like them in
Cars,
between
driving
classes.
to school.
Yeah. This was way more than just filming during practice.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. Do I think they deserve something for how popular they made that show?
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
But if you sign the contract that said, hey, you're not going to do anything.
Got to find proof that the contract was made in bad faith. That is probably the number
you
one goal
also
for them right now.
you brought it up too. You also kind of have to assume that someone as big as Netflix, they know what the hell they're doing, and
Covered
they
their
know how to
tracks
cover their tracks for
years
something
ago.
like this not to
Years
happen.
ago,
If you assume that too, so it's.
But
It's-
if
it's weird.
Netflix, say this lawsuit leads to an audit of that whole situation in that time period, it's really hard to 100% erase something that's already been brought up into the air. So it's possible, and Netflix is a billion-dollar corporation at this point. So
It's gonna be interesting.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I will, and like you said, this just happened, so
yeah,
it's probably,
just literally last
gonna-
night I saw this and I was like, oh yeah, we're talking about this.
it's gonna be some time before we probably really get some information on
Oh,
it, but
yeah.
it will be fun over
Yes.
the next couple years to continue to get. Now that I bring it up though, I think I am very intrigued to see if other players from the other seasons on different teams come out and say the same
I'd be
thing.
willing to bet they do.
I hope they do, and I hope there's proof of it.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't have to tell you, you're guilt or innocent until proven guilty,
Yeah.
and that's what this will be.
So-